This is part 2 of lesson 10. This is a continuation of the previous video, which came from the stat investigation for exercise 2J. What I wanted to show you guys is where I'll be providing the information. This can be found in Compass, so if you head to our class and go to resources, in the folder, the first and only folder for chapter 2, the lesson 10 stat investigation exercise 2J and the template can be found there. There is another example if you do have the time to look at if you wish, but right now our main concern is just this one here, lesson 10. When you download it, you will get this, which you've already been given. But underneath there's a teacher-only notes. It's not necessarily teacher-only notes, it's just my guide to show you what you need to write. My basic suggestion is for you to download this and then print this out. Now, I mean, alternatively, you can pause the screen if you wish and copy everything out. But if you're crunched for time, print it out. It's probably the best thing to do. Okay. This video will just explain what type of data, summary-wise, is best to answer the question for each of the 4 questions. Okay, so what I'll be doing is I'm going to head to the first question. Okay, the first question says, how do the ages of the mothers compare to the ages of the fathers in each time period? Now, using both the summary statistics here and the characteristics of the box plots, I'm going to use that information to answer the question. And this would be the template that I would follow. Okay. So, in 1970, I'm going to be talking about the median age. Yeah, so the median age for mothers, 23.5, was lower than that for the fathers, which was 29. I talked about the spread of the ages, so the spread specifically the range and interquartile range. And remember, IQR to determine that is Q3, take away Q1. And I compared it to the father's range, and I just pretty much said they're more or less roughly the same. Okay, if you see some type of significant difference between the two, you would just indicate that, and you would just say the range for the mothers was either more spread out or not as spread out. Okay, and then I just talked about the distribution, and I said for both of them that they were pretty much approximately symmetrical, with the exception that there was an outlier for the mother, which was the age of 45. I even said there, with the outlier for the mother's age 45. So just okay. The mother was much older than the remainder of the mothers, and then the father's distribution was slightly positively skewed. You can say slightly positively skewed, or even approximately symmetrical. Okay, if there's an obvious skewness of some sort, then you would say that it's either negatively or positively skewed. But you might like to think it's slightly positive. If you say approximately symmetrical, that's fine as well. Okay, it's just to your best judgment. Okay, so I did that for 1970. Again, I did it for 1990, and then again 2010. And you'll notice that the template was all pretty much the same. Okay, and that's all I did for question A. How do the mothers compare to the ages of the fathers in each time period? You can go ahead and again read this, copy it down or print it out. And that's how you tackle question A. Question B, how have the ages of the mothers changed over the 3 periods? So we're disregarding fathers for now, we're just going to look at the mothers' ages. And this is the template I use. The median age for the mothers has increased steadily over the years, from 23.5 in 1970 to 28 in 1990 and 31 in 2010. Now, this, if you think about it, that's pretty realistic. Even though this is, I'm assuming, a hypothetical a hypothetical example that the textbook is made, it's safe to say that as the years have gone by, the ages of couples having kids tend to get older. So if we're looking for the best summary to summarize each group age for the mothers, we would just talk about the median, and this has steadily increased over time. The spread in the ages for mothers was roughly the same. We'll just talk about the IQR in this case. I just said it was 8.5 in 1970 and 9 in 1990, but then it increased in 2010 to 10.5. That information, the IQR, was just given by the calculator, and I'm just talking about the trend that's happening. Okay, and the range of the ages for mothers was similar in 1970, 30, and 1990, 31. However, it decreased significantly to 24 in the year 2010, indicating there has been fewer teenage births. Okay, because this range is getting smaller, it's safe for me to make this assumption. Not even assumption, this conclusion. You can also look at the data as well, and you can see that there are less teenage births. In 1970, a mother of age 45 was considered an outlier, but in 1990 and 2010, the age of 45 was not unusual enough for this to be an outlier. And you can look at this information here when you work out the lower fence and the higher fence. Because most of this data in 1970 for mothers is chunked mostly to the lower end, 45 right here is considered an outlier. But then you will say that it's not really considered an outlier for the other two categories, 1990 and 2010. Okay, that's what I did for the mothers' ages. It talks specifically about the change over the 3 periods. Okay, and all I did was just use data that has already been given to me, or which I found using the calculator, just to discuss that. Okay, I also did this for the father's age as well. How does this change over time? And again, just talked about the median age, the IQR, the range, and any skewness, okay, and any type of conclusions I can make from that. Okay, so you can pause this, copy that down. Now, even though it is very report based, you can kind of see where the template's coming from now. Okay, and these keywords here, change, should give you a good indication of what you should talk about, specifically when you do your own report. Okay, and the last part here, this is probably the question that you might kind of need a little bit of guidance, and this is a good example for it. Has the relationship between mothers' ages and fathers' ages changed over time? Now, visually, you can see that the middle 50% of ages tend to increase over time, indicating that what's considered the middle 50%, the norm, that chunk of ages has a tendency to increase over the years. And you can assume that it could possibly stay the same as the years go by, or shift a little bit to the right as the years go by. We don't know at this point, but you can tell that it does tend to increase. Okay, now that's just before I've written anything. What I said is the difference in age between mothers and fathers has changed little over time. Fathers have typically been older than mothers. Okay, so you can see father older than mothers, father older than mothers, father relatively older than mothers. Okay. But this has decreased slightly from 1970 to 2010. 1970, 5.5 years, 1990, 3 years, and 2010, 2.5 years. This was obtained back here by comparing the middle of median ages between the two. Okay. This is pretty much the template to it. Okay. Obviously, when it comes to the SAC, you'll be given a different set of data. But you'll notice that the template is going to be the same. So this concludes exercise 2J, the stat investigation. Make sure that you have this calculator skill down pat, making sure that when you set it, every single draw type is on. This seems to be a common mistake that students tend to make, not put this on, and making sure that the outliers are showing as well. Okay, that's the conclusion. Best of luck. We've got one more period after this to work on the actual SAC, and then with this SAC you'll get a period and a half to work on this. So the SAC will be on the Friday, and then it will continue again in the first half of the double on the Tuesday. Until then, best of luck. Answer the questions from 2I if you haven't done so yet, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.